wanna stay ahead of the curve and follow my words. How we doing? Teach, train, innovate, solve, yeah. Teach, train, innovate, solve. If you wanna be ahead of the curve, then follow my words.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. I hope that your week has been an excellent week since our last conversation with each other. And I'm looking forward to tonight's conversation in regards to how to share student data without overwhelming your parents. This is a topic that oftentimes when I'm speaking with those who are new to our profession, that it can be a little cumbersome, a little nerve-wracking, a little frightening. But I want to talk to you tonight about it, okay? You have arrived at our channel, and I'm grateful for you being here. My name is Tamara Gibson. I'm the owner and CEO of TT Innovative Solutions, where we build confident, empowered educators through empathy, strategy, and practical tools you can use tomorrow. And one of these practical tools is actually what we're talking about tonight. When you're empowering, you're ready. When you're empowering your parents, you're ready to talk to parents and lose the jargon. So parent and student conversations sometimes become a contentious discussion because truthfully, most parents might be a tad bit confused by the way that is presented. But of course, they want to support their children. But this data conversation can feel intimidating. So as I said tonight, we'll talk about how to share progress monitoring data in a way that brings your parents as your partners and not as spectators. Because when parents understand progress monitoring, students benefit from a stronger home-school alignment, and teachers reduce misunderstandings and frustrations that could occur. This very valuable tools then becomes something that is good versus something that feels awkward. I'd like to compare it tonight to going to a fancy dinner and sitting at a table to eat, but you don't understand the full plate placement. It can feel a lot. It can feel like a lot when you don't know the order of when and where they place the silverware and what pieces to use it for. But when you've had a proper etiquette lesson, you can sit down with the place setting with your back up straight and ready to devour a grand meal. And that's really what I want to help you tonight with. Be ready to devour a grand meal, and that meal being the conversation with your parents. Your first line of defense, your first help to get you over the hump and help them to get to where they need to be. And so with that, my goals tonight are pretty simple. I have common parent challenges that we're going to discuss, a 3-step framework that I'd like to present to you, a method that I think is great for parent conversations, and some tools that make data parent-friendly, some suggestions about how to present the tools. And then definitely how to navigate real-world scenarios, because when I'm coming to talk to you about the things that are on my heart to share over my lovely career as an educator, I'm not trying to give you things that don't work. I'm not trying to talk to you about fictitious examples. I'm giving you things that I've seen either from my own experience or I've seen as a coach, as I coach educators through this profession that I truly love. And so let's dive right into the first one, which are some common parent challenges. So there are 5 that I won't say I've developed, but I've written down for you on the screen. And these 5 really capture the heart of things that I say and suggest to educators as I help them to their next level. And the first one is that sometimes parents can feel intimidated by the terminology. The terminology sometimes that we use, it's not everyday terminology. And so many of these acronyms, phrases, and things that we say, they're common to us as we're talking to each other. And a lot of them come from the professional development that we receive, but they're not everyday conversations. So Sometimes parents can feel misunderstand, the numbers or the benchmarks. So here I am, I'm sharing you with this data. It's all great. It's color coded chart. It's wonderful, but they have no clue what these numbers or benchmarks mean and how they can be of some help. Then overwhelmed, unsure how to help at home. If I don't provide some quick keys, some opportunities for them to know what's going on, it's going to just feel like, I often use this phrase from Charlie Brown, wobble, wobble, wobble. It's not going to make much sense at all. The parents can be assured of the data, that the data is just speaking about where their child is right now, but sometimes it feels like a judgment of their parenting. And that's really far-fetched from what we want to express or display. And then lastly, one of the ones that was always my biggest concern, and I wanted to make certain that they only hear that the data when something is wrong. Your parents should hear from you way prior to the something wrong conversation. There should be a constant flow of information coming from you to share with them about how their child is doing, to share what's happening in your classroom, general newsletters, general a drop-by conversation. Of course, I have plenty of tips on how to do that. And maybe I'll share them this week as we go along. But my true goal here is that when we share data with care, clarity, and action steps, our parents are hopeful. It's not heavy news on them most of the time if you've built a relationship or building a relationship with them. And then we get to my next point here, that sometimes when we're talking to our parents, the conversation is not what we think it is, and they hear data. We're talking data, but they hear test scores. And there are ways to reframe these for them so that they clearly understand that this is just you sharing with them where their students have landed. And some of the best ways to do that is to, give plain language explanations. Something similar to progress monitoring is simply keeping track of where your child started, where they are now, and how you'll help them to get to the next step. Those are easy ways to talk to them about it. Then give relatable examples. In my earlier part, I talked to you about how I could relate to sitting at a table without having had an etiquette class and don't know what to do with the silverware before me. But you could talk to your parents and say, it's like tracking your child's growth charts at the doctor. There's small checkpoints over time so that you can adjust the plan and not necessarily to judge the child. And then finally, the purpose of it. Purpose of progress monitoring really is to guide instruction, highlight the wins that are happening, and signal where support might be needed. Now, I had an opportunity not too many weeks ago to share with you progress monitoring from your standpoint and your understanding of it. So I'll be sure to link it somewhere here to help to ensure that you'll be able to come back to it at another time and listen to that part. Now, that one's not focused on how you're talking to your parents. That one's simply focused on what the data says and how to utilize this data from a teacher's standpoint. But then we have my suggestion as a 3-step framework. How can I do this? This seems very heavy. This seems like, oh my goodness, I got to do this with however many kids that you have in your classroom. And yes, you should be having these conversations with them on a as needed basis, but definitely a conversation, I would say at least, depending on your class size load, at least a conversation once per 9 weeks. So in this 3-step framework, I'm going to share how to share the data without overwhelming them with just simple steps. First one is to simplify your language. I kind of alluded to that before. We use terms that parents don't already always understand. So instead of saying the CBM fluency composite says, we could just simply say we're checking how quickly and accurately your child reads a grade level passage. Instead of saying the word baseline, here is where your child started. That way, the simplified language is understandable. It's they know where you're coming from. They can be able to relate to the conversation that you're having. And I'm not saying this um, to dumb down a conversation, because our parents are very intelligent. It is to make sure that you have expressed it in terms that are everyday terminology. That's what I'm saying. I know that you probably had conversations. I've had conversations with people that when they're talking to me, I'm still trying to search out what are you talking about? Because they've used so much, I call it jargon, but maybe high level language that is impeding our conversation or impeding us being able to communicate with each other. And therefore, it's a waste of both of our time. But the second step I would say is to highlight the small wins first. Parents need to hear what's working before what needs strengthening. And I'm going to share a method with you right after this, pointing out or highlighting my 3 steps. But you start with the progress or the effort or the behavior patterns that show growth. That's the best way to start. An example I could think of is that your child has increased their reading accuracy by, let's say, 20 words, if that's what our data says, since October. And that shows perseverance. You know, you're backing up what the numbers say, and you're telling them about the growth that they're making, although they're not possibly in this instance on grade level. You still want to highlight and share the growth that you see. And then finally, the third part of the framework is to give one clear action step. I'm not going to give 5. I'm not going to give this whole slew, a packet to give them, but one small doable action parents can support at home. One of the ones that I used, especially with regards to reading fluency, was having their sight words in a bag in the car. You're in the car a lot. Let's practice that. And then the second one was in regards to math numeracy, or increasing their math fluency, was to use practical things like beans or buttons or what have you for them to begin to count and to group things together. So this gives parents confidence, and it creates a partnership rather than a panic session sometimes that unfortunately I've seen. And as I've said before, over my 25 plus year career, I have seen quite a few things. I've seen some parent conversation that start out great that end poorly, and vice versa. And I've seen some that have been so smooth that it was like putting butter on toast. So these things that I'm talking to you about are ways in which we can help our children win, because essentially that's what you're looking forward to. You're making it so that our parents are knowledgeable, you have it communicated where they are, and that they have a way in which they could help at home. So that method that I was talking about in regards to helping you disseminate the information. Okay, so the framework was simply, this is the 3 things or the 3 steps that you need to do. Now, my method per se is how am I going to do that? How am I going to make this, as I said a few minutes ago, smooth like putting butter on toast? And I would say by using very simplistic methodology. This is we'll give it a name, 2 by 2 by 2 method. Okay, simple for you to remember, but to share 2 strengths. Here's what your child is doing well at right now. Give those 2 strengths. Then to share 2 areas of focus. State them clearly. Be sure that you're stating them without any kind of judgment, but that you're expressing to them where their weak areas or areas of improvement lie. And then third, and most important, in my opinion, is how 2 ways in which the school is going to support and how they can support at home. So in the one instance that I was talking earlier about was their reading fluency, or possibly even I could say comprehension. But how am I going to support it in school? This is what I'm going to do during small group time. Very simplistic, explaining them how I'm going to help. And then if I could get your assistance at home to do this, which I mentioned before, either sight words or simply allowing them to read aloud while they're in the car, a book that they've already read to you before, and then asking them questions. The 5 W's are very clear, very quick. To be able to ask them. These are things that they've heard before, things they're familiar with, and things that they could keep up with. This method keeps the conversation balanced, it keeps it predictable, and it keeps it empowering. And that is truly what we want. And if we're doing those methods properly and including this within the conversation with our parents, we've got the data-friendly tools that I always like to mention. Because sometimes we'll give parents a sheet that has graphs everywhere, lines everywhere, small print writing, and nothing's wrong with that. You want them to be fully knowledgeable, but you also want to make all of these things relatable. So instead of having what I mentioned, just making it so that it's completely filled with words everywhere and charts all over the place, make it a simple chart, something to point out, this visual opportunity over a spreadsheet full of all kinds of things. So a simple graph, bar line, red, green, yellow indicators often help. And most of the progress monitoring sheets data do that. A start, a now, a next goal kind of box. Not asking you to do anything extra, but I am asking you to utilize the data you're given to point out things that will make it simplistic for your parents. And then be sure to talk about the time-bound checkpoints. So if it's a checkpoint that's going to happen every 2 weeks, tell them it's going to happen every 2 weeks. Or every 3 weeks, whatever the time frame ends before those checkpoints, so that they can have a gauge as to when they will hear from you next, whether you're going to send it home or you're going to have a phone call. Using student-friendly language, like here's how your child has expanded their own progress. I love to use progress folders. I taught several grade levels, but the ones that I can think of that were early elementary, second and third, I had the kids track certain things so that they could explain it to their parents, as well as their parents could see the explanations and the information. And then lastly, I'll say, here are a few like conversation guidelines I could offer. Keep it short, keep it sweet, but give them ways in which they can talk to their child when they're helping them. Like, show me how you solve this problem. Explain to me the thinking behind it. All of these are terminologies that your parents can use at home in helping you to get them where they need to be and on grade level. I think that coupling this framework and these suggestions together will definitely help with your parent conversations. All of this starts in the ball is really in your court. And you want it to be as clear as possible as you are sharing information with your parents. And like I always love to do, I want to talk to you about some real stuff, real things happening to real people, ways in which you could relate to them, because I'm certain that either you have had these opportunities happen or your colleague of yours have had them happen. And these are ways in which you can take ownership of whatever the conversation is, and also guide the conversation so that the communication is well. My first one is when parents feel guilty. Because sometimes when we're giving, I'm advising that you give two focuses on what they can work on. But sometimes you'll get into a conversation and it's almost like a beat up session. So parents might be feeling guilty, but you can use phrases like, which is the truth. As a parent, I was doing the best that I could. And that this isn't about blame, but it's about building a plan together. When parents don't understand the benchmarks, conversations like benchmarks are just guideposts. They help us know what to focus on next. They're like markers on the road as you go down the highway. And they're not necessarily whether your child is behind as a person, but they're behind in some of the skills, and we need to get them where they need to be. So it's a softer way to share your conversation so that parents aren't feeling overwhelmed. And when parents do feel overwhelmed, you can simply pause and start to say, let's start with one small skill to practice this week. Something that can take you 5 minutes. As I said, they're often in the cars. These were ways in which, as a parent, I used, you can utilize them. And if you have opportunities in which parents completely shut down, I would suggest that you acknowledge that you hear them, that you can feel that this seems to be a lot, and that if it's possible, can you send them some small activities home for them to work with them on? Then offer to reschedule your talk for another day, and then walk them through the data together again. These are ways in which we not only build our parents' conversation around benchmarking, around progress monitoring, around improvement, but there are ways in which, as I said before, you build relationships with your parents. So I guess in my closing, I want to say to you that you don't need perfect data slides. That's often a distraction that throws us off when we're trying to convey our message. But you do need clarity, compassion, and confidence in order to share the data with your parents. Parents want the help. Our parents are sending us the best that they have at their homes. I sent the best I had in my house to teachers in order to help to instruct them. But we want, as parents, clear pathways, clear explanation. This approach builds trust, it increases your students' success rate, and it reduces some communication stress that isn't usually the number one reason why some teachers don't like to call home. But that's not an option. Really, I want to be honest about that. In order for you to build this homeschool alliance between yourself and the parents, you're going to have to make some phone calls, send some things home, be regular on your communication, be it newsletter, be it phone calls, be it just general great job announcements. Not going to talk too much about the tools that you could use tonight, but I will say that they've got some great online ones that don't take very long for sign up or usage, or you don't have to be an expert in order to use them. The progress monitoring is not just a task. It really is a conversation, and that conversation builds bridges. When we simplify the message and highlight the small wins and offer one clear next step, our parents feel capable and support feels supported. We also have to be mindful that some parents didn't have a great educational experience. So they're already coming with you with some background that doesn't feel great. So using these methods, using this framework would help. I'd love it, as always, to hear from you. I always am thankful of you stopping by the station. I don't take it for granted. I'm almost to my goal for the year. And I just want to thank the subscribers that have already subscribed to this station. I hope that the information that we're providing you is well within what you need to be successful in your classroom. As always, you can visit our website at ttinnovate.com. Any questions, concerns, or a little bit more is needed, info at ttinnovate.com. We offer several opportunities to help you to pass your certification exam. We come here weekly to talk about things that are related to all aspects of education, and as well as the exams that we assist with. But truly, we're here to teach, train, innovate, and provide solutions. We lead with empathy, we provide strategy, and we assist with experienced educators helping you to get to your next level. And that's truly what my company is all about. Again, I'm grateful. Would love it if you would subscribe to any and all of the social media platforms that you see at the bottom. We're building brick by brick, moment by moment, to encourage educators that there are still people out there rooting for you, that are looking forward to assisting you the best way they know how, and to help you to get over your exam humps, coaching needs, or what have you that you have going on. Good night, everyone. And I hope to see you again next Monday, same time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, same channel. Good night.